Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live on Air with Rita show, where we bring you inspiring and positive stories from San Antonio, surrounding areas, Texas, and around the world. We're very thankful for this show, and I have a beautiful and amazing guest here with us today. We have Lina Prado. Hello, Lina. How are you?
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me here, Rita. It's a pleasure.
Of course. And I have known you for less than a year, and in that short amount of time, you have impressed me with how amazing you are in the work that you do for the communities of San Antonio. I'm pretty much blown away by this woman here, and she does great things, and I want to bring those stories to you. I want you all to know about all these inspiring people throughout the city of San Antonio. So let's jump right on into your story. You have made such a great impact in the South Side community, but really all over San Antonio and all the work that you're doing. Let's talk about yourself, your journey, your family, and then we're going to jump into some other great questions.
Well, first I want to start with you because you need to give your props. You're also amazing and doing a lot of great things, and I've been your Facebook stalker for quite a bit, so there's credit there for you, so thank you for all that you do.
She gets a heart for that.
Yay! So for me, I immigrated here when I was 7. I came from the Dominican Republic. Sometimes you'll hear the accent since Spanish is my first language. And then I went to school in Pasadena, and then I ended up coming, to San Antonio later on in life as an adult. I actually graduated in Pasadena and then went to school in Oklahoma.
Wow, okay.
Completely, on the other side where there's like cows and everything. So, but I went to school in Oklahoma to study to be an aircraft mechanic.
Okay.
My parents didn't have the money for me to go to college, and I still wanted to go to school. I wanted to do something. So, one of the things that my dad, really taught me is you always have plan A and there's always plan B.
Yes.
So, before I left high school, I already knew how to change tires. I'd already worked with my dad on one of the cars, changing an engine. I changed oil. I mean, I just knew how to work around cars. So because I wanted to be an astronaut, I'm still not there yet. I'm still my dream. I still have my when I grow up dream, right? But I wanted to be an astronaut, and I decided, I need to start somewhere. So I went to study to be an aircraft mechanic, and graduated top of my class. I was one of 5 females in the entire program, and graduated. And my company that I work for now offered me a job and moved me to Seattle.
Wow.
Yes, it was.
And where did you go to school for the aircraft mechanic?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes, it was different, and Seattle was different. So I'll give you a funny story.
Well, really quick, the mindset, like you said, your family was wanting you to do a path, but you chose a different path.
Yes.
You chose what Lina wanted to do.
Correct.
And this is also an inspiring point what we're trying to make. It's like, yes, we all want to do what our moms and dads want us to do in life, but sometimes in your heart, you know what your passion and what you want to do. Yeah. Follow your dreams. Follow somebody that inspires you and get to that level of that mindset that you can do and you are somebody. And
my parents actually were very supportive, but they were scared. Yeah. Right? They were just scared.
It's the fear factor.
Yeah, especially coming from a Latina family, you want to keep your family and your kids as close as possible until they get married, something for them to move on. So there was more that fear of the unknown. So it was not so much they didn't want me to go do, it was fear of the unknown. And then we have some family members also that were, to be an aircraft mechanic, that is for men. Yeah. Right? And that was, which I appreciated my dad saying, well, no, she can do it too.
Exactly.
But he was just scared of me leaving not only home, but leaving to a complete different state. And I did it on my own, right? So, with the help, I remember having a nice, very nice beat up 1987 Dodge Dakota, which my brother bought it for me for $1,500.
Oh, wow, okay.
It was not worth that much. But he decided to give it to me. That was all his savings, just so I can have my starting seed money. So when I went to college, and literally that was my starting seed, $1,500. I ended up, getting an apartment, buy all the stuff, for my apartment, and then going and getting a job. So there was a motivation on, I need a job yesterday. And I got a job, and it was great. So I actually, I had multiple jobs.
Okay.
During those 2 years while I was going to college, I worked for AT&T, where I was in the calling center, in the Spanish side, where I make phone calls. Within 2 weeks, I got promoted because my Spanish was very well. So they promoted me to quality inspector.
Yeah.
And then I was a quality manager, looking at how everybody talked to everyone. But I did that only from Monday afternoon to Thursdays.
Yeah.
Fridays afternoon, all the way through the night, all the way to Monday morning, I worked at Nordam, which is a company that made cabin windows for airplanes.
Okay.
As I will program a CNC. It's called a CNC programmer.
Okay.
So my job was to get the big plastic hard, billets, and put it in the oven, get it out with a crane, put it in the CNC machine, program it, and then it will cut the pieces.
Okay.
That will then become cabin windows.
Now, was that during the time you were already in school for
full-time school?
Wow.
So
So
just-
it was part of the program.
So just to
Okay.
give you an idea, Fridays and Mondays, I was up more than 24 hours for
Wow.
2 years.
Wow.
Yes, I was young. I could handle it. I cannot do that right now.
Yeah. I know we're complaining like I'm so
Yeah.
sleepy,
Yeah,
But
but-
this is what we got to do now. We got to inspire the youth to say, "Hey, we can do this." So can
Yes,
you.
it was more about I couldn't fail. I
Yeah.
was poor. I didn't have money. My parents couldn't come save me to pay for my bills or my school.
Yeah.
So I had to be good at school,
Well, going
and I
back
had
to
to
that,
pay for my stuff.
let's go back. You were talking about being an immigrant coming from the Dominican Republic. What were the barriers that really held you back? For you and your family. What were those barriers for you guys?
To get here. So my dad, he was born in the time where there was Trujillo. Trujillo was the worst dictator in the Americas. And he was born during that time. So he actually got to see, and he was alive for, when Trujillo got killed. But even after, we had the leadership that was put in place, was democracy, right? It was the right-hand person of the dictator that got killed. So he led for over 20 years. My dad saw that, and he wanted me to have a bigger opportunity. He always learned about the United States and how the freedom there. So when I was born, my dad knew that I was his inspiration to find a better life.
Wow.
So he immigrated to Puerto Rico, and then later on he came to Texas after he had his legal paperwork, and then later on he brought me. So that's why I came when I was 7.
Okay.
But the system was not easy, right? My dad tried for many years to do it the right way. My mom had cancer and, was very sick. So we actually went through the border of Mexico. So we flew to Mexico, and then I walked 3 days, 3 nights through the border of Mexico to get to where I'm at today. So it was a journey. It was not easy.
Yeah.
And that's why I knew that, my dad, when I first landed and he picked me up, he said, "You have an opportunity that not a lot of people have. Use it wisely." And to this day, I still use those words wisely. And everything I do is not only for myself, but for everybody else that might see themselves in me, and they might be able to be successful later on.
Exactly. And that's why we wanted to share that journey, because it's like we put ourselves in your shoes and we're like, wow. That was, a lot of mud, a lot of water, a lot of sweat, tears, and, probably a little bit
A lot of cold.
Yeah,
It was January. It was cold.
Yeah. So I can imagine sharing that, that story with, people that are, close friends with you and saying, this is a beautiful story because of where you're at today. It's like we all have to go through these things in life to overcome, and look where you're at right now.
Well,
and that's what we're going to get into right now.
I need to tell you a
Fast
little
forward.
bit. I need
Yeah.
to tell you a little bit more about that, and something that's very important for you, the audience, to hear is it's not that I was ashamed, but for many years I didn't speak about my immigration journey. People knew that I was born in the Dominican Republic. They knew that I immigrated here, but they didn't know the how and the story behind it. And it was not until recent years that I started sharing it, because I met a young woman that said she was here legally, and she says, "My family came here from Africa. I can never do what you do because I came here as an immigrant." And it's like, yeah, you can. First of all, you're legal, right? It's not like you don't have papers. Yes, you can. It's your mindset. We need to ensure as a whole, it's not about just immigration, but it can be a job, it can be your family, it can be any situation. our mindset is what makes us or break us. So I decided at that moment that I had to share my story because there's others out there that need to hear it so they can get out of that mindset that they're at that moment. So just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and again, great points that you're trying to make, and so we can now really understand your story. And so fast forward to today, where you're now working as an aircraft mechanic. So let's talk about that journey.
Yeah, so I graduated top of my class, and I actually was offered a job without applying to my company because they were doing a career fair. I was told don't apply because that company requires 5+ years of experience that I didn't have. But they went and talked to all the teachers, and they got recommendations from the teachers. And I was one of those that was recommended because of my work ethic. And I was brought in, I was offered a job, and they told me, hey, we're moving you to Seattle. And that was a challenge because, I just left home 2 years. I wanted to go back home. I was homesick. And I was like, Seattle, first day, we'll continue paying for your education. It's like, oh, free school? Sign me up.
Wow.
So I took the job. They moved me to Seattle. They let me go home, and I spent 2 awesome months at home. And then they moved all my stuff. They paid for everything. And then I moved to Seattle. It was beautiful.
Wow.
I loved it. The people were amazing. But it was too cold for me. It rained a lot.
How long were you there?
Around almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yes, almost 2 years. So then I worked as an aircraft mechanic. It's the airline was, not an airline, but the aircraft was the 747.
Okay.
Which is those big jumbo 2-floor aircraft. And my first day of work, and I showed up to do my training, and then I went to work, and they took me to where my airplane was at, and for my team, and it was in the area, it was called the paint, where they were painting the aircraft. So, they let me go in, and it was there with a few other people, and then I stood right beside the tires. These tires were like up to here to me.
Right, just so as big as this.
Yeah, so as soon as I left there, I called my mom in tears. Mom, the tires are as tall as me.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be working on an airplane that the tires are as big as me. So that was just amazing. But, learned a lot while I was there. Wanted to come back to Texas. So I found that my company had a location here in San Antonio.
Okay.
So I applied for a job that was a demotion. So I took a pay cut to come to San Antonio because I wanted to be as close as possible to my family.
Well, sometimes it's worth it just to make it back home.
Yes.
So within the 2 years, you came back to San Antonio.
Yes.
And how did that go for you?
So I came to San Antonio, close it in here. I was a structure mechanic.
Okay.
So it's the people that repair whenever there is the frame of the aircraft, the metal piece, whenever it's broken, something hit it or whatever. I did repairs on those, which is very critical just because if the airplane, all the air is not going smooth, you ain't going up. So my job was to repair those, and I did that for a little bit. I continue, so just so you know, I continue my day one when I started my job. I also I was already enrolled in school.
Okay.
So I was a professional student from day one. I worked full time and sometimes overtime, and I went to school full time. And then when I moved to San Antonio, I continued, my education.
So what were you going to school for?
I was getting my bachelor's in professional aeronautics with concentration in security and intelligence.
Okay, all right.
So that's why I got my degree from Embry-Riddle. I finished it here at San Antonio, actually at Randolph Air Force Base.
All right.
That's where I finished the degree and graduated. And then in that time, I met my husband. He's born and raised in the south side of San Antonio for generations.
That's where we're at right now.
We're in the south side. So my husband actually grew up he went to Gilboa Elementary. And he just grew up in that area. And then his family, had been here for generations. His grandfather actually was a veteran, and he worked in the same building that both my husband and I work now.
Wow.
So it was before he passed, and before the dementia and everything hit him, I got to meet him, and he was just so proud of my husband for kind of continuing his footsteps.
Yes.
So it's something that a lot of the families, here. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I want to say just congratulations just on all of that you've been sharing. It's again, inspiring for those who say, hey, I want to do what Lina does. I want to grow up to be just like Lina, you know. And I know you went through, you know, your work process and you said, I'm going to start working with a nonprofit, or you started your own nonprofit.
Yes.
All right. Let's
So when I was working on my master's, right, my company, a friend of mine, invited me to be a panelist for a Women in Aviation conference, and you know, I went there and I saw so many women, professionals in all types of aviation, and I realized that, you know, when I come back to work, maybe I'm the only one in the room. I'm the only one there. So it's like in San Antonio, in Texas. So I wanted to make sure that we were educating and providing that resources to the girls, because a lot of the time it's not because they don't want to do it, it's because they have no idea.
Well, in the workforce, were you like the only female, or was there a mix of male and female?
There was other female, but very, very few. Remember, it's less than 4% of in aviation that we have females.
Okay.
Less than 4%.
So this kind of inspired you to say, hey, you know what, we need to bring more of the females.
We need to bring that here. Yeah. So I was already volunteering quite a bit on schools. I would go talk to students. I was very involved with organizations like Girls Inc. and others. Yes. And it was inspiring to see, you know, the vast necessity, but then I didn't see a lot of aviation focus. And then there's just not enough coming in. So I was like, well, I want to do my part and bring it up. So while I was in that conference, I actually took one of the courses on how to start your own nonprofit for women in aviation. Wow. And as I was doing my master's at that time, so as part of my thesis, my thesis was starting a nonprofit. So, and there was other ladies, so I didn't do it by myself. There was other ladies here in San Antonio that also had that dream and that passion. They just needed, you know, the extra help.
You got your team.
So we brought in, we had a meeting. Out of that meeting, very few of us, it was like a handful, to say, hey, we want to do this. And we sat down and we spent a year, and we got our organization established and going. And now we just celebrated our 10th anniversary.
Wow. Another congratulations.
Thank you.
My goodness.
10th anniversary. And so our mission is to empower girls to go into careers in aviation. And boys too. So we allow anybody to come in, and we won't turn anybody down. And we do our big event. It's called the Girls in Aviation Day, which mainly we've been hosting out of Stinson, where we partner with different organizations and we give those girls their opportunity to fly. We teach them about being mechanics, how to be all the way to firefighters. Wow. I mean, we have hundreds of girls. So we started with 20 girls. This last month, we did over 150 girls came to our Girls in Aviation Day event. So it's amazing.
And how often do you have those?
So we have it once a year. We have a lot of different events, but that's our staple event that we do once a year. And just a quick story. So one of the current president of our organization was an actual recipient of one of our scholarships. And she, you know, used the scholarship. She continues. She is now a professional pilot. And that's what she does. And now the whole circle, she has become the president of the organization. Wow. And we have given hundreds and thousands of dollars to students. So just recently we did our fundraiser gala where we brought in different speakers and celebrated, you know, the 10 years. We've actually brought in our students and previous scholarship recipients, and we had over 3 tables full of young ladies that are either going through our program or that have received some benefits or that are going to school right now. So we've had some history, you know. Just recently we had one of the ladies that went through the AIM High, which is an Air Force program, where she got hours to become a pilot, and now she's using that, and she's going to college and studying to become, you know, going to aviation. So I think that's a success. We've turned one girl around. That means that it's been successful.
Well, it's great to bring back the alumni because you want them to share their stories
Yes.
and inspire all these other youth, like you said, for the females and the males to come out in this program. But that sounds like another story for us to do. So it's like, that would be cool to go out there and be in the air doing a story up there. But yeah, this is very inspiring to share.
But just so I'll give you a quick story about how it has gone full circle for me. Not only by giving back to my community, but also, so I told you I came here as an immigrant.
Yes.
So I ended up going into different roles, and I mean I've been with my company for over 17 years. And now I have a master's degree. I have multiple certifications, one including from Harvard. And I, before the role that I have now, I was the operations manager for the Air Force Executive Fleet Program.
Okay.
So the most important aircrafts in the world.
In the world.
In the world, I was the operations manager for it.
Okay.
And it was just such a, my first day at the job. Seeing that airplane that, are the most important people in our nation get to fly in, and me that came as an immigrant and being able to provide that service, that was full circle. Yeah. It's just, that tells you that the American dream is still alive and that we should fight for it.
Yeah. I love it. And it's all going to boil down to, your story, your family, your workforce, your nonprofit, but not just that. You're at another level now. Your mindset of really helping the communities and being there for them and seeing you as this great leader and the things that you've done to help so many people. You're running for Bexar County Commissioner Precinct 1.
I am.
And that in itself is a whole nother world for you. And I want people to understand your role and what you're trying to do to help the communities.
So I never had a dream to go into politics. I leave the politicians to be politicians. But being engaged in the community, I have seen a lot of need. Yeah. Not only through the nonprofit, but I've served in different boards. I started the Education Foundation, my husband and I, at Southside, and we got to see kids that are going to school that are homeless, that are, crashing in their friend's couch, and that just don't have that support system. And that's when, I started doing, like, what can I do? So a friend of mine, Lucia Dammer Clark, we actually started doing prom dresses, and we've been doing it for over 9 years, and we have a closet at Southside. But that was that trigger, like, hold on, you have kids that need something. How can I help? And then that took on into other things that have brought me to be of service to the community. And the more I do, the more I see that there is a gap and a disconnect between our public officials and the actual need of the community, right? And I'm not saying nobody's doing their job. No, everybody's doing their job in their best of their abilities. Yeah. It's just more there's a bigger need. And recently, my husband and I, we sat down and we looked like that's the question we always ask, how can we be of service? What can we do within our ability? So I started looking at my experience and my background. It's like, I have a very unique perspective that maybe a lot of people don't have. And I'm able to go and provide that help. So where can I be of service? So I looked at the county commissioners and looked at what they did and saw this is the stuff that I've been fighting for. Is something that I can provide value. In my experience and background managing, right now I'm the supply chain leader where I manage, millions of dollars. The county commissioner, that's exactly what they do. They manage the budget for the county, ensures that they prioritize projects appropriately, providing the right roads, the infrastructure, providing the right amount of sheriffs, the DA, things that can impact our day-to-day. When you leave out your house, if you have a pothole outside of the street and it hurts your car, that's something the county commissioner, can help with. When your car's getting stolen, like we're having here, an increase. When crime is rampant, that is something the county commissioner can help you with. So those are the things that I want to go and implement. So I don't know if you know, but in a lot of people, it seems like they don't know when I tell them. But when you go to the south side of San Antonio, like sometimes you going into a third world country. And even a third world country, I know my dad lives in the Caribbean, out in the country, and he has better roads than we do in the south side of San Antonio. We still have sand roads. And when I say sand, it's like, think of going to the beach and walking on the beach. That's exactly how the roads are. So what that does is a lot of people don't have access to first responders. So when they call, I've met many neighbors when, their family member has been sick and they call the ambulance.
Yeah.
If they don't drive their own cars to go and get the ambulance and support and bring him in, they don't get the right services because the ambulance cannot drive into the areas, into their homes. When they call, we've seen homes that burn down because they call the fire department and they cannot go and provide the services, so they have to let it burn. They try to control as much as they can, but they have to let it burn. Those are basic services that we should provide our residents, especially residents that are paying for taxes. And that is what I want to bring to the table. I want to use my experience through aviation, through managing projects, to looking at efficiencies, to be able to provide the services that our residents need. And those are just basic needs.
And being in media, that's our job to get this information. We're here to hear everybody's side of the story. We want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to help. And that's going to go back to the people for them to make their decisions. And we want people to know all about, your story, first of all, your journey, so that they can know who you are. And then they can go make their decisions based on your passions and your heart for the communities. So with all of this, taking place, as far as the voting, what is your main message to all those out there to make sure that they know where you stand?
So just know that, I've been in this community. No, I was not born in San Antonio. My husband was born and raised here. And I understand the needs of our community because I have made sure that I embedded myself in our community to understand and to provide that assistance. This November is not about the politics. It's not about what's happening in Washington. We need to make sure that we're going all the way down ballot to our local officials, ensuring that we are being represented, the person is being represented. We need to get away from this politics. And if you're a Democrat, Independent, Republican, we need to make sure that we are voting our values and the right people that have the experience and that have proven record that they can do the job. And that's the big piece. Whether you're supporting me or you're not, please look at the individual. Look at their track record. Look to see what they brought to the table and how they can be of service in that job. Because every political office is different, right? So how can they be of service in that job? And if I'm one of them, that's a blessing. But I encourage you just to ensure, go down ballot. So many people, especially here in Bexar County, vote for the presidential, they vote for like the federal, and then that's it. They walk away and they do what was considered an undervote, meaning somebody went to vote, they just didn't vote all the way down. And there's a lot of critical things. I know in the city of San Antonio, there's some amendments to the charter that are happening. Those are critical, right? Because they impact you on a day-to-day. The county commissioner, there is sheriff. All those roles are in the ballot this year. The judges, there's a couple of judges that are also in the ballot. And those are the ones that impact you on a day. And when you walk out of your house, when you're taking your kids to school, when you are going to work, those are the people that impact you daily. So make sure that you're voting for the right one, that you're actually voting for them, and make sure that you study to see what they bring to the table. And don't look at politics. Don't look at parties. Look at the people.
And that's why we're bringing this story to you, so that you can make that vote for yourself. And it's just, again, very important that we do these kind of things. And we're very thankful through Inspiration for Life Media to be out there and capture the stories and be your extra voice. We're just here to amplify what you're trying to get the message out there. So, and I know there's so many other things that you're doing, because even before I knew you were, running for office, I was just impressed with everything that you do for the community. So that's what I'm here to do to help share your story.
Thank you.
Do you have any other words of encouragement that you want to share to the listeners, maybe even for the youth that are also wanting to probably be a part of your nonprofit?
Yeah, so I actually have a message I will share with everybody, the youth from 0 to 99. It's the sky is no longer your limit, it is only your beginning. Let's change our mindset and let's go out there and drive for the best.
Now let's talk about, before we close, where they need to go vote, all the information so that we can get them the exact place, time, everything.
Yeah, so if you're a registered voter, we have over 1.2 million people register here in Bexar County. So we need to make sure that your voice is being heard. Early voting starts October 21st and it runs through November 1st. If you can go to bear.org and they will be able to provide you exactly the location where you can go vote. During early voting, you can go vote anywhere. And then on November 5th, that is the last day that you can vote. That is the general election, and you have to go to specifically your location. And again, you can go to that website. And then you can reach me and get any information from me at Lina, that's Lina Prado, Prado.com. Or you can call my campaign number, which is 210-899-5919.
And you'll be having some other upcoming events with your campaign as well, if anybody wants to help volunteer to be a part of it as well, correct?
Yeah, so we're going to be having, you can go to my website and you can stay up to date with all the information, my social media under Lina Prado.
So you have a lot of great things going on. And this is why we bring these inspiring stories to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita.
I mean, I know you still have so many things going on, and so please continue to let us know of all the great things that you're doing here in San Antonio.
We will.
And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you.
Yes, and again, everybody, we love what we do through Inspiration for Life Media, bringing you inspiring stories from San Antonio, surrounding areas, Texas, and around the world, here on Live on Air with Rita Show, with Inspiration for Life TV Network. This is your host, Rita Hernandez. Get inspired, be inspired, stay inspired.